Hello friends and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're going to make my version of made from scratch brownies. So we've all had the box mix. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's really oily and doesn't really have the best chocolate taste. I prefer to make brownies from scratch because it's just a little bit better. Now mind you, I've used the box mix. I even did a video before where I showed you how to change some of the ingredients to make them a lot more homemade tasting. But what you see on my counter is what we're going to use in this version. And there is peanut butter here. If you have an allergy or if you don't like peanut butter and don't want this in these brownies, you can remove it. I just put it in there just because of the fact my family likes it and we like the way it makes the taste of the brownies. If you want to, remove that from it. Otherwise, we're going to use what's on the counter and we're going to preheat our ovens to 350 degrees because this is going to bake for about 40 minutes or so, depending on how hot your oven gets. You might want to check it once you pass about 35 minutes just to be sure how it's doing. So we're going to start off with 2 cups of sugar. And then we're going to add to this a cup of butter, which I softened up in the microwave. And we're going to blend this a little with our mixer before we add any more ingredients to it. So once everything's in the bowl, just mix it for a few seconds just to actually start to get the sugar and the butter incorporated a little bit before the eggs start coming in. And when we start with our eggs, we're going to do 4 eggs and we're going to put them in one at a time. So once you've got this a little bit mixed, just get ready and add your first egg to it. And the reason I say do it one at a time is when you're doing this way you know that you're breaking open the yolk and you're actually getting everything incorporated as you're putting them in. So just keep going with it one at a time until you get all 4 in. If you don't feel that when you're dumping these out of a bowl you're going to get one at a time, just go ahead and just crack the eggs one at a time and put them in. It's perfectly fine. And continue to mix this until everything is really incorporated and it gets kind of fluffy, because we want to make sure that everything has been pulled through and there's no egg hanging about, no yolk that didn't mix through. We just want to get everything really incorporated. So once you get to the point where you feel that it's really mixed through, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add the peanut butter. Now, if you're not using the peanut butter, you don't have to worry about this part, but really you're just throwing in about like 2 tablespoons. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. Like I said, this is just, it's your choice. If you want to try it that way, it does taste really good, but you don't have to do it. And once that peanut butter is in, if you used it, we want to go ahead and get this mixed through because the peanut butter has to really be mixed through the mix. So you're going to go around it with the mixer a few times just to make sure that the larger pieces of the peanut butter are broken down and eventually it starts to incorporate into what you already had in the bowl. Because we want it, there's no lumps or anything. We don't want any of that in there left around to be mixing in later. We just want to make sure everything as we do this is incorporated. So next, we are adding 2 teaspoons of vanilla to this. And again, keep going and get this mixed through. And then our last thing we're adding, I'm using Hershey syrup, and we're using about maybe 1/5 of a cup here. And we're going to pour this in. This is just going to give the chocolate taste a bit of a kick. And the best thing about it is like when you add this to it, it kind of takes it to a new level. It isn't just kind of like, oh, it's chocolate. Well, no, this got a really good chocolate taste to it, and it really just throws it in there, and it's something that makes it so much better. So it's one of those things. You don't have to use Hershey syrup. You could use any kind of syrup you want to, as long as it's a chocolate syrup. And then go ahead and mix this again until we get everything totally mixed through and totally incorporated. So this will take probably a minute or so just to make sure that this is all blended through, because it should have at this point totally gotten there. So next we are going to go into another mixing bowl. We're using 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. We're using 1 teaspoon of salt and around 1/2 cup of cocoa powder. And once this is in, we're going to whisk it together to make sure that the salt and everything goes through. We don't want any of that salt hanging in one place. And the cocoa and the flour are all getting mixed together. So that as soon as you get this to a point where everything looks like it's starting to blend into the same color, you know you've mixed it plenty. Now once that's mixed, we're going to add our wet ingredients to the dry. And once all of this is in the same bowl, then we're going to go ahead and mix this together and get everything totally mixed through. If you have not preheated your oven to 350 degrees, you do need to do it by now. And just remember, these are going to be in there up to around 40 minutes. You really do need to check them along the way just to see if maybe they're done a little earlier. You know that if you go to check it, all you have to do is take a butter knife and stick down into the center, and if you get wet coming back out of it, you know they're not done yet. So go ahead and mix all of this together. And make sure you do around the bottom and the sides of your bowl just to make sure that we're pulling all of those dry ingredients up. And as you can see, for everything we put in here, this has a really great chocolate look to it. It's just, you know this is going to taste good. Now, once we get this totally mixed, we're going to get ready to put it in our container that's going to go into the oven. And you're going to need something, I use a Pyrex dish, which was 9 by 13. So anything like that will do you well. And I use non-stick cooking spray on it, excuse me. Or you could use oil if you want to. This just works for me, because especially if I'm using something that's glass, it does really well. So go ahead and put your batter into this. Make sure you get everything out of the bowl. And once it's all in there, we want to just smooth the top of it to make sure that everything is pretty much pressed down and smoothed across. We don't want any big lumps in the center of this when it's baking. So as you can see, by this being a 9 by 13 pan, there's a lot going into this. So there's a lot of brownie here, and you literally have enough for a bunch of people to eat on for a minute here. It really isn't going to be a problem feeding a whole family out of this thing. Now, as I said, once it's in your container, just make sure you smooth the top, and then once you've done that, you're ready to put it into the oven. And like I said, 350 degrees for around 40 minutes. And when it's done, it'll come back looking something like this. And you need to let this cool for a while before you cut it, because otherwise it's not going to cut very well. And when you're done, you can serve this with whatever. There's so many options you can do with this, because when we served it, we got a little bit crazy. We actually used ice cream and whipped cream on top of that with the brownie. And it had the best taste, because it was just something really sweet and really great. And yeah, it's probably not good for you, but it tastes good. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out my cookbooks, which are available in bookstores worldwide. The first is all about everyday cooking. The second is all about baking. Have a great day.